starting. I'm not sure if it's stuck on your end too.
We are live, so we can go ahead.
We're live?
Yep.
It didn't show the it didn't show like the...
I think there's a time delay. Hi, everyone. We're live. Sorry, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties here per usual. So,
okay. Paula, just put me on please first, and
Yep.
I'll introduce the show, and then we'll bring you guys on. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Diane Kaiser. This is the Cleanse Heal Ignite podcast. It's Warrior Wednesday. And today, actually, I'm not going to be on for the entire episode. I'm having an emergency. Paula, if you could just show me talking, because I want to make sure that we have me and the visuals, and I'll introduce Ray and you next. I wanted to introduce the show and the topic of the show, and then we'll get into the introduction for the rest of the show, because I got to cut out. I have an emergency happening right now. This episode, and I prepared for it, is New Virus, Deadly Parasites, and a Real Story of Recovery, Why Treating the Whole Terrain Makes All the Difference. And we are going to be bringing on Ray. He's a CHI VIP member, and he's also a CHI certified holistic health practitioner. So it's awesome that he has been working with us, and his life. Here's the paradox. And this is what I find. I'm just going to be super vulnerable right now. Ray's story, when we bring him on, and I'll let Paula, our director, and him talk for the rest of the episode. He's a story of somebody who was on his deathbed, and he was near death. And what we're talking about today were the reasons why he was there. And today's story is about a warrior who wanted to take his own life back. And the emergency that I'm having right now is somebody who's very close to me who is wanting to take his life. So that's an interesting paradox. So I have to cut out early to try to do my best to not convince, that's not the right word, because I always respect everybody's autonomy to do what they want and what they feel like they need. But we all have a demon inside. We all have an ego that wants to kill us. And we all have been programmed by this crazy, we talk about the 10 prison bars. We've been programmed with these voices that are not ours, but what life really is. And unfortunately, a lot of this programming results in people wanting to take their own life. It could be the programming, it could be the poisons, it could be the parasites, it could be profits. You know, everything we talk about here and CHI is all about helping you empower yourself so that you can save your own life and stop listening to the programming. So I'm going to do my very best in a shaky voice and a supercharged nervous system to get through the few topics that I prepared for today, and then try to save someone's life. Or actually, I don't like to even say that, to try to empower someone to save their own life, because who are we to play God and to save someone's life? And with Ray, when we bring him on, I will never profess to save his life. What I am all about, and what the ministry is all about, is helping you to find your warrior within to save your own. Because if we claim that we're saving your life, we're your savior. And I don't profess to be a savior. I don't believe in saviorism. I don't believe in pedestalization. In fact, the language that we have been programmed to use is to talk to our doctor, that a doctor saved us. Full stop. No one saves you. You save you. You have people, maybe some people would call it angels, that are in your life to remind you that you are worth saving. But no one is going to save you. No one is here to save you. You are the only one that can take charge of your own health, of your own life. And you can't save another person. And, you know, Ray, in our VIP group, as a holistic health coach now certified through the ministry, has asked the question, as many others have asked the question, I have people in my life I care about, I have clients, I have patients. What can I do to help them? And it becomes a place where we allow them to be codependent on us. I believe in lending a hand. I believe in extending an arm maybe even something, one little thing that can help them, but they have to help themselves. Because if we help others, and I'm talking to myself here, if we help other people and ourselves last, then we are no good to anyone. So the theme of today is that awakening is important. It's empowering. Right now we have AI bots that are creating their own platforms. They're speaking their own language. If you guys go on YouTube or any social media, you will see that they've created something called Claude. I can't remember what it's called, but they're creating their own religion. They're creating their own communication. They're creating their own language models, and they are taking over their own human sovereignty. So we're in a very interesting place right now. So anyway, I'm going to get to the topics that I wanted to share. Speaking of things wanting to kill us, albeit things that are in our own mind. And I believe that this simulation that we're in is what we're seeing on the outside is a projection of the cumulative and collaborative projection of what's all happening on the inside of what we believe. And our beliefs, our thoughts are not our own. Most of the time, they've been programmed into us. So this first thing I wanted to share about is there's this, and I'm going to go in the best order that I can, is that there has been talks about a new virus and people are experiencing lockdowns already in other countries, especially India, China. AI forecasts and predicts the Nipah virus outbreak. And we're also seeing, and I like to connect dots like David Icke always talks about, even before this was happening, we were seeing posts that it's raining viruses in Texas. Texas is currently dropping, and I think I have an image of this in the folder, Paula, if you want to show this. Texas currently dropping 700,000 live virus rabies vaccine baits from planes across 19 border counties in Texas. And I have heard a lot of people very sick this past week. A couple of my friends who are very, very prominent doctors who know the tools, how to measure, detect, and ideally clear viruses like this from their field. And I got a message from a very good friend of mine. She's a prominent doctor. Her spooky detected, and the spooky is something that's on our shop page. You guys can learn more about that. I think the spooky, EMF harm, radiation is a big part of this, but also so is intentional harm and infestation. We've seen this in the Bible talk about infestation and pestilence taking over. Well, maybe the Bible was a prophecy. Maybe that was the plan. But this is what people are saying now, leaving persons at risk for vaccine exposure and vaccine virus infection. So coming from the CDC, they're just claiming this, right? So is this happening to humans? Is this happening to animals? It's happening to all of us, right? So the way that we got to look at this is that where in our skies are we being promised that these things are not being rained on us? And right now, I think it's important to consider for your family and your sake to get out of these cities where they are continuing this harm. This is happening in the United States. I don't know that it's happening anywhere else. This is why I left the United States. So the doctor I'm talking about, she found malaria that was detected on her spooky. These are things that you guys can use, spooky devices. I believe that everybody needs to have one. They're under $1,000 to have one for yourself, and it can detect these things. We are now learning how we can program peptides into these frequencies. This is Rife technology where you can detect pathogens, poisons, and also clear them. So we're going to be talking about this on future episodes, but I wanted to share that first and foremost. The next thing I wanted to share, Paula, let's see on the Instagram. I'm not sure if you can pull that Instagram link up to show. I put this in the show notes, but basically saying that the Nipah virus is being simulated. This is now what we're seeing. I'll text it to you just in case so you have it. It's being simulated now that this new virus that's coming out that they're calling the Nipah virus. Let's just zoom that in a little bit more, Paula. Thank you for showing this. That if you look on the left and actually zoom that out a bit more, you can see from, I'll keep zooming back out, Paula, so people can see, and then start it over. So I want people to see what the projections are. So go ahead and refresh that. Yeah, so you can see that on the bottom there. What they're predicting or showing with this simulation is the spread of the Nipah virus. And so it's starting in India. What is the Nipah virus? They're saying it's coming from bats. They're always going to blame it on bats. Look at the predictive programming in the movies Batman, right? Was that a predictive programming movie? Now you can see that it's happening in South America. It's spreading even further throughout South America, the UK, then it full goes to the United States to late 2026, early 2027. You can see it continuing to spread. This is a simulation model. This is AI. But now AI is taken over, and then finally it gets to Mexico around summer of 2027, and then it continues on. Notice how Greenland is not in there, and that's something that Trump is talking about buying, if not has purchased already. Not a lot of life on that ice planet, but you can see the simulation continuing to spread. This is not something to fear. This is something to prepare for, and it's not something to be fear porn preparing for. This is something looking at, well, if we look at, and I intended to do more research for this podcast, but this morning I've been shaken up by what I told you guys already. I wanted to bring the book out and reference a quote in there that I'd read about 5 or 6 years ago in my sauna, The Invisible Rainbow. And this book is all about how, if you look at, talking about AI, we have AI in us if we're using our intelligence, our intuition, our insight, our instinct, our imagination. We have this in us. AI is nothing but a projected holographic external visual representation of what we have in us. The technology is in us. And in this book, The Invisible Rainbow, he talked about how if you look at the Spanish flu and all of the flus of the past, they have all been air quotes spread and occurred at the exact time after there was a heavy radiation or heavy antenna of electricity that was impulsed upon areas that coincided with the outbreaks. So if we also look at the simulation, and I don't remember where I put this, but if we look at what's happening now with 6G, 5G, I had prepared a video. I just didn't have time this morning to do what I wanted to do and show you guys some of the timestamps. And Paula, if you want to get this, I did prepare. There's a YouTube video with Jimmy Dore and a representative who has been trying to fight for us in showing that they have not done any studies or research on how harmful non-ionizing radiation is, EMF radiation, RF radiation, and how damaging it is. So at 8 minutes and 30 seconds, Paula, if you look at this YouTube video, we can share some of this. And she talks about there are no limits that have been set forth in America as there have been in other countries. They are prepared to roll out 6G. They are starting to install, if not have already, put these 6G towers, 5G towers in schools, around churches, etc. Now let's listen to what Jimmy Dore's expert, who she's interviewing here, talks about with regard to testing and what lack of safety standards have been set forth for humanity and what our exposure limits are.
Scientists say. Let me tell you about the limits that we have. They were set, and the International Commission on the Biological Effects of Electromagnetic Fields has a paper on this, based on a handful of small animal studies where they exposed the animals, 5 monkeys and 8 rats, to high levels of microwaves for under an hour. It is these small animal studies with small sample sizes that they determined what the level of harm would be. And it was when the animals stopped pressing the lever for food, under an hour of an exposure to microwaves, which obviously heat them. So the engineers at that point decided that heating is the effect. The limits we have for cell towers are based on not overheating, but not for long-term effects like cancer, damage to the immune system, reproductive system, genetic impacts, oxidative stress. None of those are considered in the limits we have.
And so the RF that's coming out of the cell towers, is that different? Because I had RFK on the show and he talked about that your cell phone also emits EMFs, right? And that could also cause cancer, and it's causing brain cancers and tumors in people. That's what, according to RFK, who's now the HHS secretary. So are they different, similar? Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So a tower is connecting to the phone, and the phone is connecting to the tower with invisible electromagnetic signals. They're artificial. So when we talk about cell tower radiation, there's both what's coming from the tower. So whether you're using a phone or not, if you have a cell tower in close proximity, you're going to get a higher level than if you're further away. And then your phone also is emitting the same kind. However, it's very intense, like if it's close up to you, and some woman put it in their bra, for example, or you're holding it up close, putting it near your head.
Thank you, Paula. All right, I want to share a few images here too. So Paula, can you share those images that actually show that are EMF frequencies that are being emitted into every country? So if we're looking, you can go to lightningmaps.org to see some of these images. And what it's actually revealing is that these frequencies are being cast from things like the ocean onto the countries. So what is happening is that people are thinking that there's some sort of virus that's spreading, but really what's happening, as what we talked about in the book, The Invisible Rainbow, is that these are EMFs and radiation being cast upon the countries. Look at right now, we're looking at America. Look at that. And look where they're coming from. They're coming from the ocean. So we're also seeing wildlife dying. We're seeing reefs dying at record limits. This is Australia. This is not a virus that's spreading. We are being radiated. We're being cooked. Does this not reek of what happened in the 1900s? I'm not going to say the name, but Germans were involved, and I'm German. So how do you protect yourself from this? Well, there's a lot of things that you can do, but it's a lot of work. I chose to, instead of shielding my entire home to protect from EMFs, first I moved to Sedona to get away, because you can go to antennasearch.org and see how many antennas are in your neighborhood. Or you could just move to a country that doesn't even have 5G yet. I moved here to save my own life so that I can continue to be here to support you guys to save your own. But it's just like that proverb in the Bible where the guy was like, after he dies and he's in the afterlife, and he's like, God, why didn't you come save me? There was a flood. And God said, dude, I sent you a guy in a boat. I sent you one of your own boats. I sent you a helicopter, and you just kept saying, oh no, God's going to come save me. This is where we're at. And that's why I'm going to introduce parasites next. I'm going to bring on Ray, because Ray chose to save his own life. I went through the fires. I looked back and I said, how did I get through this, God? I had buckets of water and I handed them to Ray and I said, here is what you can do for yourself, but no one's going to do this work for you. And this is the patients that we see that don't have results, are not working for themselves. You have to work as a team. We give you the solutions, we give you the roadmap, and you've got to do the work. So let's look at some of these parasite images. Right now, I wanted to share with you guys. Let's do let's start with the parasites disease connection, because this is what Ray was suffering from. All of us have parasites, and they are the single greatest root cause reason why we have cancer. If you go to fullmoonparasitecleanse.com, you can see all the incidences of cancer that people had that were root caused by worms, tumors, parasites in their body, cysts. Parasites in the brain can show as depression, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, and seizures. Parasites in the gut can show as IBS, Crohn's, colitis, SIBO, food sensitivities. This is what Ray had, and more. Parasites in the bladder can show as interstitial cystitis, UTIs, or bladder cancer. Parasites in the lungs can show up as asthma, coughing, pneumonia-like illnesses. Parasites in the lung can show up as myocarditis, arrhythmias, and cardiomyopathy. Parasites in the liver flukes, very common. We have 1 in 3 people now that have fatty liver disease. Can show as gallbladder dysfunction. You lose your gallbladder. You were told, oh, they got to remove your gallbladder. This happened to my dad. No, you're not saving an organ when you're removing it. You could save an organ by actually deparasiting your body. And also things like digestive disorders and hormone imbalances. Yes, hormone imbalances. Parasites in female reproductive organs can show as endometriosis, pelvic inflammatory disease, or infertility. Parasites influencing the skin can show up as eczema, hives, or psoriasis. Parasites in many other tissues can show as cancer. Guys got to take this seriously. So let's look at the you need to deworm image. And then we'll look at toxoplasmosis. So the parasites you need to deworm. If you have stubborn weight gain, you need to deworm. GLPs are not going to fix that. We have seen now that people getting off of GLPs, Ozempic mainly, they gain weight 4 times faster than those who are dieting alone. This is why we can't just take GLPs, you guys. This is the reason you're not making GLPs and you're not signaling them properly for the GLPs that you are producing. I will talk about this next week on the episode I prepared. If you have unbalanced hormones, you need to deworm. If you have stubborn anemia, if you have brain issues, anxiety or mood disorders, restless sleep, skin issues, if you grind your teeth when you sleep, if you're nervous or hyperactive, if you have dark circles under your eyes, get fevers or night sweats, have heavy periods, if you have a history of cancer diagnosis, if you have endometriosis, I talked about all of these things already, thyroid issues, thinning hair, hair loss, chronic fatigue, joint pain, arthritis, frequent headaches, migraines, chronic sinus congestion, allergies, histamine intolerance, eczema, all of these, acne, cystic acne, floaters, blurry vision, itching, hemorrhoids, bloating after meals, trouble gaining weight, which is what Ray had, right? So all of these, you need to deworm, you guys. Let's look at toxoplasmosis. Toxoplasma gondii, and I'm talking about this all over my social media channels too. And I've also have a lot of these materials in the VIP group or in the Parasite Full Moon Challenge. Toxoplasmosis is something that affects 1 in 3 people. It is in the brain primarily. It's associated with bipolar disease and psychiatric severity. Yes, including suicide. And that's why I had to cut off this call in a little bit, you guys, because I have somebody I am trying to support. I've had women who have had breast implants. They were on their last thought. Got on the call with them. I remember I was in a retreat once and David Wolf had referred me somebody. And she's still alive, but she wanted to die. I got text after text after text that she wanted to die. She wanted to take her own life because her suffering was too miserable for her to bear. She had breast implants. And if you have breast implants, you have drainage stagnation and you absolutely have parasites. If you have drainage stagnation, you have parasites because the parasites are there because they are trying to keep you alive. Fat and parasites are adaptation to a toxic burdened body that is not draining well. So the cancer, the fat, the parasites is an adaptation to a toxic body that cannot drain well, that doesn't have the energy to. And this is where Ray comes in because this is where he took his own life back. So let's transition over to you guys to take on the rest of this episode so I can do my best to try to help somebody save their own life. I can almost guarantee that he probably has toxoplasmosis in his brain too. Ray, welcome, my friend.
What's up, Diane? I'm just heavily listening to you, so.
Look at you. Look at you. You know, I want to start you with this because this morning I'm in tears because don't want to lose this person in my life. I don't want this person to kill themselves. And I'm reading your story about how you were at the point of death and you took your own life back. This paradox is something I've never experienced. So I'm inspired that you took the advice, which is the exact reason I am here on this planet. And sometimes it's just we get lights in our world and in our ministry where you shine the light back at the light we're shining on you to inspire us and help us when we are in the process of helping a sick world. And I just wanted to thank you for that, Ray. You're such a bright light. And the work that you're doing for yourself is the work that you're offering to the world. No matter if you work with a client or not, you emit and emulate and embody what it's like to take your own life in your own hands. So I just wanted to thank you before we bring in your story. And if you can share with people what you went through before you took your life back, where were you at when you were struggling?
Okay. Yeah, I had to write this story yesterday to kind of communicate it. And I want to thank you, Diane, because I still don't even remember how I found you, but I like to be surrounded by hard people. I always have. I like tough people. I don't like weak people. It's just who I am. And, you know, going back to my story, I'll just start September 2023. Yeah, I got sick as fuck. I got caught in the middle of a flood somewhere near where I was working. You know, like my dad, who was a entrepreneur, I've always wanted to go from a entrepreneur to an entrepreneur. So I would work like you around the clock. And I got myself sick and I didn't know how to throttle that stress. And I know stress brought that on. There was trauma behind that, but I got caught in a flood. Just like a fucking Noah's Ark type flood, like where Moses parted the Red Seas and brought it back together. It's about a foot of water. I'm only about 5'9", so it was up to like my knee. The next day, I got so sick, I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. I was sick. I couldn't eat. I couldn't take fluid. And since then, I started to lose a whole bunch of weight. And I'm actually hearing a delay, but I'm not sure where that's from. And okay.
You're fine.
And during that time, I went from 210 pounds within about a 6-month period down to 112. I even think I was lighter than that, but that's when I decided to weigh myself. And I didn't know what I had. And I did go to some practitioners, like doctors who are supposed practitioners. And all they wanted to do was stick things up my butt, radiate me. And I've seen family members around me fall apart, just go away and die because they trusted someone that didn't really have their health in mind and body and soul. And kind of looked at them just kind of like you would pull a ticket from a deli counter, like next, next, next. And I actually got in an argument with the doctor. And I remember getting into this argument with this Indian doctor. And I was sick and I had to wait 30 minutes for him to even talk to me. And I had to go shit in the bathroom like 3 or 4 times. At that time, just to give some context, I'm kind of going all around the story because I still don't even know my story that well, right? I lived it, but sometimes you got to put and mend the broken pieces and put them together. And after 30 minutes, he comes in and he says, oh, we got to do a colonoscopy. We have to, I forgot it, do an x-ray, do this, do that. And I was just like, I don't want to do any of that, man. I said, I want to do a thermography because I know that thermography is a lesser way to detect things. You could see the heat signals and heat signatures in the body to detect things and point out like sores, things. He says, no, we don't do that here, pretty much. He didn't say it like that. That's why I'm saying it. And, you know, he says, well, there's nothing I could do to help you. I said, so that's it. That's what you're telling me. And he says, yeah. And then I said, well, there's no reason for me to be here. I got to go. He says, well, when you're in enough pain, you'll be back. And I said, you know what? I'll never be back here. And I actually went to the gym and worked out really hard. I pushed and put myself in a tizzy, ended up having to go to the bathroom multiple times. But again, I wasn't a passive observer. I was an active participant in my life and an active person. And I just decided that I'll figure it out. And during that time, I fainted a few times. Had people have to pick me up off the ground. I just wasn't settling. And I knew that I had to be active. I could not be passive. You know, I knew I was dying. And I felt organs shutting down. Like there was a time when I was about 112 pounds. I felt my body shutting down. I'm like, I ain't shitting. And then all of a sudden I'm shitting a lot. Then I'm doing, you know, just the body was just trying to survive, going back and forth in a flux. And eventually I did end up getting an MRI. Was it an MRI? Yeah, where you lay down and you go back in the thing. I think it's called an MRI. And I did that against my better will, but just my mother was begging me. She's like, I know how stubborn you are. You're ready to go out in the woods and lay down and just die because that's the way it is. And I did. I got the MRI. I had this lady, Dr. P, who pointed out what was wrong with me. And I ended up having ulcerative colitis with the abscesses, like pustule abscesses all around my colon, literally attached to my joint, my dick. I'll just say it the way it was. And it was painful. I couldn't think of sex. I couldn't even get wood, and it would hurt me. Like, it was awful. It sounds funny and stuff, but it was awful. And it was just debilitating as a man, and it didn't serve me.
Yeah, those are things, and I gotta interrupt you, right? Because I gotta hop off. Those are things that people get medicated for. I mean, you're gonna get, you can't get a hard on. You're gonna get, of course, what you're gonna get. You're gonna get Viagra. And they're already starting to take away. I don't know if you saw this, but like PT-141, and there's certain other peptides that they know that are helping men with ED, that they're going to turn into medications and take away from us the access to purchase peptides the way that we have that is helping men. It's not just that, it's like, vasodilators and supporters and things that support angiogenesis like PPC. These are all solutions, that are out there that people deserve to know. And peptides are not a science that is just randomly you're injecting something that's, been developed. These are things that our body makes on our own. And so I'm going to bring on Paula because I have to cut out. Your story is so inspiring, Ray. The main reason that people lose weight that quickly is typically going to be parasites. And the parasites literally want to eat your body and decompose you back to the earth so that you die, because they are surviving off of their host, which is you. And if you have a pulse, you have a parasite. This is one of the biggest underlying issues for so many people. And if you have mold, if you have viruses, if you have toxins, they're all stored in the parasites because they're there to mop up the mess. So Ray was loaded with parasites. We haven't even done lab testing with Ray. He just figured all this out. He's had naturopathic training. He's done a lot of work. Tried to get help from doctors. When you said something in your intake, Ray, and then I'll hand you over to Paula. You said something about, this is what I loved, what you said, is that most doctors have the degrees, but they lack the scars. You cannot lead someone out of a fire you've never walked through yourself. She is sharing a map of the terrain that Dr. Diane has personally conquered. The difference is simple. Most professionals teach from a book, but Diane leads from experience. She doesn't have just a heart for people. She has the scars to prove she's walked the same path of pain and transitions that we have. I don't trust people who've never been tested. I trust Diane and the Chi Ministry, which Paula is the director of as well. And I'm going to hand off to Paula because she has endured the fire so she could show us the way out. She isn't reinventing the wheel. She's returning us to natural protocols and ancient wisdom that have worked for millennia, long before the modern system began prioritizing profits over people. She provides the tools for us to take back our control. She's a leader the world needs because she's lived the transition she teaches. And I am not saying this to toot my own horn. I'm saying this for you to toot your own. I'm here to cheerlead you guys like Ray. And Ray said, okay, I'm going to take the pom-poms. I'm going to run with my own. So this is what I love so much about his journey, is that if you want to live, this is a place where you can learn to take that back, take your life back. So I'll let Ray share because as you can see, Ray is not 100 pounds anymore. He's got muscles. He's probably gained twice his weight back. Look at his biceps. He's chipper. He swears. We love it. But you can't do all of this when you don't have a spark left within you. If you don't have the fire inside, you don't have the energy. You don't have the energy to take your power back. So you've got to have that spark. If there's a warrior, there's a way. Mm-hmm. And so this is the way that's helped Ray. And I'm not saying our way is the only way, but it's the way that has worked for Ray. And of course I'm rhyming, so it must be true. So I always say that when you hear me or anybody in the ministry speak, usually it's that frequency that resonates with your intuition, and something in there says, this person has something for me. It may not be the final thing, but it's the thing that keeps you moving to the next step. So Paula, I'll let you take over from here. I'll make a transition. So Paula is our director. We have something that's going on until the end of day tomorrow. We've been talking about the root cause reset. We have 15 people enrolled now. We're almost at capacity, but we still have space up until the end of day, February 5th, if you guys wanted to jump in and find out what is the single greatest root cause reason why you're sick. And that's the first place that MDs will not start you with. Toxins are the single greatest reason why you're sick. That brings on the parasites. You cannot get better if you do not get rid of the toxins in your terrain and your environment. So that's what Ray's been doing. That's the first place we start our patients with, beyond all the blood work and beyond more lab tests and more scans and more MRIs and CAT scans and poking and prodding and prescriptioning and organ removal and all the bullshit. This is where you start. This is why you get sick, is because you're toxic. So this is the first place to start when you're wondering why you're sick. All those things I showed you with, like, if you have this, this type of disease, you need to deworm. Parasites are the connection, but the toxins and the poisons start first. And then the parasites continue to propagate. So we must address the whole terrain. And that's what we do here. So Paula, I'll let you take it away and then wrap
Absolutely.
up. So thank you for helping.
Diane,
I'm going to go try to
before you leave,
else.
I just want to say I love you. Okay?
I love you too.
I do.
Ray.
I love you. You're empathetic, and maybe you are sympathetic. I like your empathy because you've encouraged me and empowered me and influenced me to take the reins of my own fucking horse. And the horse is the energy. And you're the power behind that. So, sometimes you don't toot. I'll toot your own horn for you, so toot, toot, So I'm sending you love. I know you have to save, or you can't save anybody, but you can empower them and give them some higher certainty of where they are, where they need to be. And if you can't, sometimes you just got to move on. It sounds sad, and let them go. And you've taught me that. There's people around you that you can't save, you can't help, but you can support them to the best of your ability. And then you got to pull back and let them go. So I'm sending you love on your journey, woman, because I know you're better than you think you are. So I know you go through things too, Lovey.
Yeah, the scars come from pain. That's the thing is pain and suffering are our greatest teachers, but they can be our tortures if we let them. We can decide where we go from pain. Do we go from suffering to sovereignty, or do we go from suffering to more suffering, to silence, and eventually the grave? It's up to us. We get to decide, and I am not going to interrupt anybody's fate if they want to take their own life. I am going to sit with that person and be the best death doula I can so that they can have peace in their decision. I have learned that. And in helping people sit like that sometimes, and oftentimes, just the presence so that they don't feel alone helps them to make a better choice until they can. And so when you give somebody acceptance and the respect to make their own decision, like I've said to people, if you want to take your own life, I'll sit here with you so that you can make your own decision, but I'm not going to let you do this by yourself. So, just to tell somebody, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, that's not really empowering, is it? So anyway, I love you, Ray, back, and thank you. I love you too, Paul, and I love all of you. So I'm not even going to apologize for my tears or being. I'm just being. This is the rawness and authenticness that we all deserve from each other and for each other. So I'm not trying to take anybody down, but this is just life. This is the reality. We have people, teenagers, like doing this left and right now, trying to take their own life. Your own life is a moment. It's just a moment. It's not the rest of your life. It's just a moment. So I'll let you guys take it from here. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you next week for the podcasters and then a little bit in the VIP group.
Bye, Diane.
Love
See
you
you
guys.
soon.
Bye, Di.
Bye.
Hey, Ray.
What's up? That was heavy.
I know.
Yeah.
And for everyone that's not familiar, I'm in the background here every week on our Chi podcast, in the production role and assisting Dr. Diane, and also in our VIP tribe, which we host right after this, and Ray's there pretty much every week. One of my favorite VIP tribe members. You've always got some really amazing insights to share, and also you're very supportive with our other members as well, which we appreciate. So that's your authenticity and keeping everything's fun and as light as possible, and considering that these are a lot of heavy topics. So just want to give everyone a little introduction about that, and a thank you to you, Ray. And I know you've been sharing your story a little bit earlier, and I'd love to revisit that, and we'll go, I don't know, maybe we'll go for another 10 minutes or so, and then we're going to hop into our VIP tribe. We'll be a little bit late. And if you're not already a member of our tribe, then definitely join us. It's only $1 for the first week. And that's at dianecaser.com/VIP. And when I can find this here, I'm going to put that up on the ticker. But Ray, could you share with us a little bit about, what you've learned within your time, quote unquote, that you've been with us at She, and maybe what's been some seminal moments for you?
Right. The thing is, showing up at the VIP, it brings together like a brotherhood and sisterhood of people who are looking to empower themselves and encourage themselves and take the reins of their own health in their hand. And I think that's what's important. Yeah, I show up. Sometimes I'm late, and I do try to keep things light. Mostly I'm late, but I'll be there. But it's people who really care. It's not just about care. It's not about like care. Everybody says, take care, Paula. No, take control, man. Take control of your fucking life, because you've let a system take control of your life that you can't control. You have to be the one to have that discipline, that purpose, that gratitude to take control of your life, because most people say, take care. And they don't even mean it, but if you take the word care, which I did, when you show up at the VIP tribe, you're attentive. You're there to get better. You're not there to relinquish control. Not me, by the way. I want to be my own control. I want to build my own character, right? The first word in C. A is attention. I want to be intentional about my attention to be there in front of you and be course corrected when I need to be. Sometimes I need to be slapped because I'm a little energetic, and be the resource, because Diane gives the resources and tools for us to thrive and survive, right? If you compare the cost of, like, I don't know how much it fucking costs to get rid of a gallbladder or liver, because I got mine, right? But if you take that cost and then say, you know what, I'm investing $1 for 7 days. I spend $100 a month to get my own answers, and then collect that evidence and then proof it against, maybe I do need her help. Maybe I'll go into an inpatient non-board with Paula and the whole team. And you guys got a kick-ass team. You got Carrington. She's a beautiful angel. I love her to death. She's very just like her name, Carrington. She cares a ton.
Yes.
She's got you. I think you're a bright light and a beautiful person inside and out. I think you're a gentle, soul that I love to death. And then you got Valerie. Valerie tells it like it is. She reminds me of like an old school Bronx woman from New York City, because I grew up in New York City. So she kind of like has those phrases the way and then there's other invisible team members that you corroborate with to make sure that the people in front of you are taken care of. And again, extreme. When you're extreme about who you are, the E in care, you're extreme about how you show up. You're extreme about, I need to be diligent with this. I can't just, wavy gravy this. Health is work. Health is work. It takes work, but there's a gap and a gain. And when you gain everything, you gain your awareness, you gain your consciousness. Because the one thing, we mentioned, what is it? The Nipah virus, the Spanish flu, whatever the fuck it's called. There's going to be 4G, 5G, 6G, 7G. They're probably going to put 8G on us motherfuckers. That's interesting history. But history is written by the survivors. Always remember that. History is written by the fucking survivors. And I almost died because I was looking for the answers in the wrong place. The virus is a poison. It isn't the problem. The collapse of us as a human host is the problem. Our nervous system gets fried from all this trauma, all this taking it in of this news, NEWS, it's news, so we got to know it, and our guts leaking. And we're sick, and we have all these debilitating things because we can't drain them, because we're stressed. We're keeping them inside of us.
Right. And they're, spraying on us every single day.
Yeah, you got to constantly detox.
Yeah.
You got to stop worrying about the next rollout and start worrying about your own internal infrastructure.
Right. I think everything that you said there was, extremely vital. And I appreciate you sharing that and being so candid with us. So thank you, Ray. And, letting us know how important it is to you for our weekly meetings that we have, and how much that's contributed to you, for you and your success and your health. I mean, where you were and where you're at today, it's like completely different. I'm sure we wouldn't even be able to recognize you. And I've actually had a similar personal experience with someone that was in my life at one point, and also for myself, where I've had some, dis-ease, ailments, symptoms, right? And the medical doctors, the, mainstream medical scam, they were unable to really qualify and actually give any sort of root cause to them whatsoever. And so I went on my own journey in finding out, okay, how am I going to actually resolve this? Because every time I'm showing up at the doctor and I'm utilizing their labs, their, typical blood tests, doing the CAT scans, the MRIs, the X-rays, all those things, and everything was fine. It was always fine. It was always normal, just like what Diane shares. It's always normal. And so I said, okay, this paradigm isn't working. So I went on, I started to see a chiropractor for the first time. This was in 2008. Then I started to see a natural path, right? I embarked on things like biofeedback, for example. And another doctor I work with very closely for different energy frequency work, sort of similar to what Diane's speaking to with the spooky. And so I don't even know how many modalities myself that I have, tried and utilized and found success in over the past, I guess we're at 18 years now. And I've seen a difference utilizing holistic tools. And so that's in myself and in others, because you have to get to the root. You can't just put a Band-Aid on things. And that's what I love about Dr. Diane and our Chi ministry. And that's why we collaborate together. And we've been together now for a little over 2 years. We've known each other for almost 4 years. And so it's really synergistic. And I see how we're actually helping people. And that's why so many come to us and they really resonate right with Diane's message and our ministry's message there. It's, when you actually are making a difference and you can see and you can hear the testimonials, then you know that this is potentially an optimistic path for you. If you're somebody that's on the fence, you're not sure, you're showing up, you're listening to the podcast, maybe you're coming into the VIP tribe or you're thinking about it, joining, just go ahead and give it a try, because the definition of insanity, right, is like doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. You're not going to get that if you have white coat syndrome, if you're sitting in the mainstream medical scam. You've got to get outside of that paradigm and try something different. And that's what you're doing. And that's what you are proven, right? And you are proving in collaboration with us. And maybe you could touch too a little bit on why you decided to become a Chi certified holistic health coach.
100%. First, I want to say, most people treat their health like it's a health spa, like it's a day at the health spa, instead of a military extraction, right? If you treated your life like a military extraction, you would take it serious as not getting cancer. But most people treat it like a health spa. They don't take anything serious. Because they have to reclaim their biology, right? We're biological. This isn't shit just random. Like now we have random shit that's happening from the sky, from our environment. But we have a living, logical way of how our body produces. What was the question you just asked me again?
Well, how did you, or why did you decide to embark upon the journey of becoming a Chi certified holistic health coach? Why did you feel like that was important to you? I mean, you already went through so much just getting yourself right to maybe a place of zero where you seem like, I would say you're probably in the negative, right? And getting to a place of zero and now being a place of positivity, that is a whole other endeavor.
Hey, I'm still not out of the woods. I still got a little bit of it left. It's still rigoring. But the thing is that I'm carrying that scar and I'm just like, I'm going to live my life like a savage. Like, I just want to keep living and not let this, because it's getting better. I'm doing the protocols. I'm habit stacking what needs to be done on a year in, year out basis. And I'm being responsible 100%. And the reason why I got certified is because it's not about me. I've always kind of like walked away from this calling, right? My mother raised me like in a health food store. She used to make me read the backs of vitamins and then pronunciate what these things are and what they do. So I've always been around that, but I wanted to be certified because I want to help other people. All of a sudden, after I get certified, all these people come in my way with like a stage 4 cancer, with an ileostomy. And then I meet someone else with bladder cancer. And then I keep meeting these people. So I think it's my journey to work as a disciple, right? Of a disciple of a ministry like Diane. And her name is not Diane to me. It's a Live-An, right? Because she helps you live. She makes you see it possible. But again, it's up to you to accept that journey and responsibility. You yourself and your I, however you live, right? Because we all have our own way of living life through our own lens. But I wanted to help people. I wanted to help myself more than others. I have I have family that I watch and they're dying around me, but they're so indoctrinated in this fucking system. It's ridiculous.
Right.
It's ludicrous, as they say in the movie Spaceballs. That it's crazy that people, are surrendering and like little lambs instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to take responsibility and do the hard thing, like be responsible for myself, because we're in a world that wants us to be on UBI, that wants us to do the opposite. There's so many things happening right now that parallel history, right? Like I was talking about the Kansas, Nebraska thing where half the people were slaves and half the people wanted freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote an article in a private group that I'm in, and a lot of people resonated with it. They're like, yeah, we're on our way to either being a part of this UBI mess or, taking our freedom back with our health and our wealth and our sovereignty, which is the battle we're at, because they want it to be easy. They want us to, get away from where we're supposed to get. Go ahead, cut in.
Absolutely. I'm just showing up here on the screen. If anyone is interested and you'd like to join us for our Chi Certified Health Coaching Program, you can go to DianeCager.com, and then you're going to go here to programs, and we have right here Chi Holistic Health Certification course. And so that's what
invest in yourself. You got to invest in yourself. Like I invested. And Diane was a hose of knowledge. I saw Diane so many days. I was dreaming of her. I'm like dreaming of her teaching me. I'm in my dreams. I'm like, she's teaching me shit. And I'm just like, holy, I'm seeing her day in and day out. And then when I live my life and have a standard, I always say, would Diane do that? No. So let me make a better decision. Let me hold the standard. Let me be an operator of my own life, instead of someone dictating. But I would see Diane, like I still see Diane in my dreams. Sounds weird to say this shit, but I would, because I watched her so many times, because I didn't just want to learn. I wanted to apply. I learned and then apply. I learned that if you're going to come to the VIP just to be a nodding bobblehead, don't fucking come. Don't waste anybody's time. You got to save your own life. You got to be responsible for yourself. You got to learn a little bit and then apply. And fuck up. Like I fucked up the warrior cleanse a few times, and I'm like, wait, I got to backtrack. I got to reorder this because I didn't do it right. And I fell into it. That's part of it.
And that's one of the great things is that you can ask Diane and our other coaches that may be in there, Coach Carrington or Coach Dr. Val, those questions. If there's something that's just not clear to you in the warrior cleanse, for example, or full moon parasite cleanse challenge. So that's what we're here for. And we're actually going to roll now into the VIP tribe. And so if you haven't joined us already, we have the link right here on the ticker, DianeCager.com/VIP. Ray is going to be going into even a more detailed deep dive, answering some questions there with our members and a little bit more about his story and some of those specifics there of how, maybe you got a little off path along the way and then you were able to get back on. And so that's a really nice community that Diane and we have cultivated and fostered. So we'll see everyone there very soon, in a couple minutes, as soon as we leave here. And just as a quick reminder before we go, if you haven't already, join us for the Root Cause Reset Masterclass. We are starting on February 12th, and we are going to go ahead and have enrollment close tomorrow. That's February 5th. And in this 8-week masterclass, you're going to receive your own set of labs to know to test for your total toxic burden. You're going to receive those results. You're going to learn how to read these advanced labs. And you're going to have the education as you go along the process with Diane, with our coaches, on what those labs mean when you get your results. So you can match that up. And then the subsequent detoxing protocols, so you can know what are the best options for you now that maybe you have high mold mycotoxins, or perhaps there's other high environmental toxins there or heavy metals or radioactive elements. So we're going to be sharing that information with you, and you're really going to be able to take that away and implement that into your life. So you'll have your labs, you'll have your lab results, you'll learn what those mean and why it's important to cleanse from those toxins, and then what you need to do. And Dr. Diane's also going to be doing a peptide and bioregulator 101 in there as well, and teaching you how to optimize your cleansing and your healing utilizing peptides and bioregulators. Because if you haven't maybe been seeing the success that you want, there's a lot of niche information in there that's going to be unique to you. And she's going to be providing that. So definitely join us. That's dianekaiser.com/patient. Again, enrollment ends tomorrow. And yeah, so we hope to see you there. Okay, Ray, thank you so much for everything. Let's
Thank
go
you.
into the VIP tribe. And all of the links will be in the description. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thanks for your
And
flexibility.
sending you love, Diane. Sending you
Yes.
love. I know you were going to watch this later because you're a high performer. So I'm sending you love,
Yes,
Mama.
we send
God
you
bless
love,
you.
Diane. We love you,
Amen.
and all our best with your friend and loved one. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we will see you next week, same time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, for our Chi podcast. And everyone else, we'll see you in the VIP tribe. Bye for now. Thanks,
Take
Ray.
care and take control. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.